Check, check. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, if you have tickets to dine and field cricket competition, please make your way over to the dining area. It's time to see. There are just tickets left. So if you'd like to dine today with this team, make your way out to the lobby for purchasing tickets. So, $5.66. Steal like this. Those who have just joined us, welcome to the 44th Annual Joint Culinary Training Exercise. This year there are 22 teams and more than 200 competitors. Competitors from all ranks of object service. Nearly 400
Check. Check. Check, check. Mic working. Y'all can hear me, right? The guy who needs to hear me ain't paying attention. We good? Good, good.
In about 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I forgot that was on. All right. I guess it's any time. I'm ready. All right, good. I'm ready. All right. Today, aspic work. You see a lot of it out on the tables out there. Makes everything nice and tiny. It's a preservation technique. Um, I've always done it, a couple different ways, and I learned this way not too long ago, working with the regional team, Team USA. You see, there's a whole bunch of stuff up here that we use to do this. Try and make it as clean as possible. The least amount of cleaning of your gelatin you have to do later, the better. So the idea is to try and keep everything at the proper temperatures based on what it is you're using the different gelatins. So today I'm using like super clear gelatin from Custom Collagen. It's one of the cleanest ones that we've found. They make a lot of different kinds. You see some people use the Knox gelatin all the time. It gets very, very yellow. You'll see mine. This is a solid thing right here. You can see right through it. So it's really been the cleanest one we've been able to find. And we found that it works really well at about 90 degrees, the gelatin. So I use an immersion circulator. I use 2 different strengths of gelatin. Actually, I use probably 4 different strengths, but for today's demonstration, just 2. I have a 16-to-1, which means I use 16 ounces or a pound of gelatin to a gallon of water. And then I use an 8-to-1, obviously half of that. So it's a little lighter. And I use that for some more delicate vegetables and things like that. If you notice some of the platters that are on the tables in any competition, sometimes the salad greens are really wilted, typically because the gelatin was either too hot or too heavy. So as it sits on the table, the gelatin weighs down the vegetables and they start to look a little wilted, so we use a lighter strength of gelatin. A lot of other tools I have out here, paintbrushes, all these different things. You want to try and keep everything nice and warm. So when you're working with your gelatin, you can then clean it, keep it nice and clean and get it into the refrigerator. So you're going from hot to cold, hot to cold. There's really no in between here. I keep a nice package of spices here because you need to make your food look seasoned when it's out there. So I'll actually grab something out of the fridge now. So we use a lot of these Sterilite containers. One of the reasons for this is it keeps them obviously from product from getting damaged, but also a lot of the refrigerator obviously has fan units in it, and if you have a soft gelatin that goes in to the refrigerator while it's still soft and the fan blows on it, you end up with wrinkles in your gelatin. So we try and keep as much of the stuff covered as possible. We use a lot of plexiglass and lining everything up nice and neat. And I'm just going to work my way from left to right on this. But with this particular piece here, it's a venison tenderloin. So that's venison tenderloin inside. I stripped down the pieces of it, rolled it in a little bit of leek and mushroom ash. So I just burnt leeks and mushrooms and ground them into an ash with a little transglutinase. And then glued the pieces together in a ring. Wrapped that with some sliced mushrooms that were seared. Wrapped that with the outside of the venison tenderloin and seared it. And then I wrapped it in a piece of poached Swiss chard. I like the red because the red kind of cool, looks nice with the veining on there. But because of that, this may actually bleed in the gelatin, which will then transfer to all my other pieces. So you do see a lot of chefs will actually brush their first coat on. Try and get a nice clean coat on there to keep it from bleeding. So I'll actually brush a nice coat on. You'll want to check for bubbles, obviously. Bubbles are the devil here. But I'm just going to brush a nice coating on that Swiss chard there so it doesn't bleed out. Nice and gentle. We don't manhandle food with this. Always keep a lot of hot water around because this brush will be absolutely useless if you don't wash that gelatin off there. You'll notice even my 8th strength gelatin is like ballistics gel. But for the rest of this, basically, two clean spatulas, and you're just going to work your way from this plexiglass to the other one. And I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to very gently, not like that, dropping it, push away your bubbles, get them out of the way. Bring your piece up, nice and shiny. Drop it in here, just to clean the edges. And then you'll pick that up and transfer it to your plexiglass. In the same position it was on the other one. Just repeat the process for all these pieces. Some things will need more than one glaze. I usually dip twice. If you get a bubble that pops up, you can just push it out of the way. I like to move them off to the side, and then once you get through this batch here, I'll actually pop those. It is a tedious process. For those of you on your teams that actually glaze, you know this. These are just some different pieces that I would put on an entree plate. But the process remains the same for your terrines, all your slices. You don't want too much water in your pan here. I have it just to the base to keep the towel damp. That's it. Too much water will actually melt all the gelatin off completely. You just want the towel damp. If it were dry, the gelatin would dry onto the towel, and you would end up with sort of the adverse effect. Now, very, very dirty. Clean regularly, clean your tools. The gelatin actually will begin to solidify pretty quickly right on your tools, so I always try and keep them nice and clean. Depending on the vegetable you're using and how you're going to put it on the plate, you can use this technique, or you can use foam and toothpicks, which I have some in there, and you're basically just going to dip the entire thing and then clean them later, right on the toothpicks. You want everything on your plates to look cooked. For these larger pieces, you use 2 hands, it's okay. Get the bubbles out. You see how shiny, nice and clean. Basically in this pan and on there exactly how you're going to put it on the plate. You'll notice when you do this that you will have a little bit of gelatin that comes off and gets onto your tray, but practicing this particular technique right here stops a lot of that from happening, so your cleaning later becomes very, very simple. I'm going to keep the gelatin around 90 degrees. So I work with the pan here around 100, just to make sure that I don't ever want to go over 100. You'll notice the strength of your gelatin lessens the hotter you get it, obviously. So when I bring the gelatin up to temperature, I didn't even talk about that part. After I bloom the gelatin, I bloom it directly in a pan. So the whole gallon of water, then very lightly just the gelatin over the top, 16 ounces or 8 or whatever strength you're using. Cover it in plastic, and then I go into a combi oven and I set it for 120. I try not to let it go over 120 degrees. After that, it starts to get brittle. Sorry. With this, I'll probably do 2, but you'll have to check your pieces when they come out. I've been lucky with the 16 strength to get away with just 2 most of the time. You don't want it to be too thick either, because then it really looks fake. You just want it to be nice and shiny and clean. Once that's done, everything is careful. You don't just throw your stuff around. From there, into your Sterilite, cover it, and get it into the fridge. On the team, when we were in Luxembourg for the World Cup, you always try and have one person who keeps all the Sterilites in order. That was me. So you get very good at remembering what's where and how many times something's been dipped, and you use a lot of tape and you'll mark things. And for your terrains, and this is just, I'm not trying to win awards here today, this is just a simple thing that my students made in class. So I brought it today, unbeknownst to them. When they get back on Tuesday, they're going to be super pissed. But it's just a simple shrimp wrap, lobster and asparagus terrine, and then I wrap some spinach around the outside. On your plexiglass, I like, and I didn't do it with this one, but I actually like to use a label maker and number my pieces, and then I keep my other sheet numbered, so I always know number 1 is always number 1, forever. So label maker works. I've seen people use magic marker. The problem with magic marker for me is that you can't use it for anything else. Now it is numbered 1 through 8, or 9, sorry, because you need 1 for your display. 16 slices, same thing. You may need 2, pieces of plastic for that. You just got to keep them all in order. And I've seen very damaging things with platter work in competition when people don't have their products numbered or know where it's going, and they end up with like pieces that are reversed, inversed. I've seen some upside down. It's tough. For these wraps, this one was spinach, the other one, like I said, with Swiss chard. I like to use a really heavy gelatin for that. So when I wrap pieces, I usually double my strength all the way up to 32. It's expensive, yeah, but it's your butt on the line in competition, so spend the money. But that spinach, that won't come off. I mean, you really have to tear it. You see, I'm not doing anything different here than I did with the other piece. It's really just a repetition. Just want to be very, very careful with your bubbles. Very careful when you're carrying the pieces, how you handle them. You can work in whatever order works best for you. I just happen to start from the right here. I like to go by the numbers, because especially since I didn't write anything on these plexiglass sheets this time. Bubbles popping up from underneath, so you can just get those out of the way. Get up nice and clean. A little bit louder, buddy, I'm sorry. This here, I don't have a particular temperature. It's just hot, yeah. Again, too hot would be a problem. So if I see it really starting to bubble or steam, I'll turn it down a little bit. And the bubbles creep up on you right at the end. If you do happen to get a bubble, I'll actually intentionally put one on the next one. And I don't think you guys can actually see what I'm doing in here, so if you want to walk up here, by all means do so. I'll see if I can get this here. There's a bubble there. Basically, you can see the bubbles floating around under there. You can actually just push them out of the way. You just have to be gentle, because every time you dip this spatula in there, you're going to end up creating another bubble. So if you get one that actually sticks on, that one right there, sometimes you can dip it back under and actually pop it or move it. Just a couple seconds. If you leave it in too long, yeah, exactly. if you go too long in there, all you're going to do is melt all the gelatin you just put on. So again, see the bubbles popped up? I'm just going to push them out of the way. There's one. So you saw this one right here. The gelatin actually slid out from underneath and made that pool there. As that cools, or when I go in and dip again, that'll actually warm up and melt off. But if it doesn't, when it comes to cleaning later, we'll just run it across the top of the pot. That hot pot right there, melt that off. You can use a spoon, you can use your warm tool, whatever.
What's the best way? What are you trying to do? Yeah, because I don't want it to and I don't give too much.
It'll just float in there. If your gelatin's the right temperature, it'll be dense enough for your product to just you get underneath them and work with it pretty easily. Critical that you use the equipment that's provided for you. Make sure you're using your circulators, or if you have a ton of thermometers and things like that, use them.
So you guys, we got next, right?
The gelatin right now is about 90. The water surrounding it's about 100, so I can keep that gelatin at 90. But it also depends on the actual gelatin brand that you're using. This one I've noticed between 88 and 90 works really well. This is a custom collagen super clear. You can find it online, Amazon. Everything on this table came from Amazon. It's got really nice shine. The tape that's on my plastic there, my plexiglass, is solely because there are 15, 20 people on the team working at the same time, and you'll never bring your stuff home. I have other people's tools, I have other people's stuff in it. So we all determine which colors we're going to use, and then there you go. It'll only take, with this at 90 degrees, it'll only take about 25 minutes to set it. I'll let it sit a little longer than that. Now, quite honestly, when we're doing this from the team perspective, you have, like I said, you have your platter, you have your 5 course, you have your 3 appetizers, you have your finger foods, you have all your pastry. So there's 50 of these containers that you have to manage one at a time. So you got one guy doing this process, and me, after I put my table together, I'll have all my stuff, name on it, ready to go, and then we just run them through. And it wasn't just me every time, but I was in charge in Luxembourg, making sure all of the trays were in the proper order. So it's a constant rotation, double door fridge and a walk-in full product. I'll show you the toothpicks. Delicate vegetables like this, little tiny ones, really tough to work with this spatula, right? So basically, this is some crap I got at Michael's. It's pretty cheap. You could use styrofoam blocks, you can use whatever, just wrap it in plastic. And then, again, all your vegetables need to look cooked, so these are cured off vegetables. However you say it is on your menu. But basically, just going to dip them just below the surface. I don't. Well, it depends on the vegetable. So this has like a point to it, right? So I might actually drag that for a little bit. So keep your vegetables set up in a way that looks kind of natural and easy to clean. So I actually set these asparagus on there in this particular fashion so that any gelatin that does drip goes down to just that point right there. So all I have to do when I'm ready to plate this is clean off that little tiny bubble off the end rather than work around the entire Brussels sprout with a hot spoon. If you want to, season something while your vegetables still a little bit warm, you can use whatever seasoning you want based on what it is you're making. I have a bunch of stuff in there, obviously, but you want to do it. This is just black pepper. You can use whatever. based on your flavor profile.
I definitely will.
But you need to make it look
start that
natural.
diet
Don't
next week.
pepper somewhere in the middle, right? Exactly. It needs to look like, you know, I took these vegetables, threw them in a pan, and sautéed them, seasoned them, and put them on a plate. And that's kind of the idea.
Down again. It feels weird.
You will notice that when you start working like this on a regular basis, if you don't have a ton of hot water around, everything you own, everything. In fact, on the front of this burner here, I get that button, doesn't work anymore. It's caked full of gelatin. See how shiny that is right there? You can actually see the different heights and depths of the green and red from the veining without seeing a bunch of rippling and other stuff in there. If I had actually not brushed that first, this would have a red tint to it, and you would see it, and it wouldn't look natural. It would just look like the red bled through and then you manufactured it. And it depends on how you want to season things too. I mean, if you wanted to season it right away, like these particular vegetables, I could have brushed all of these vegetables, hit them with a little salt and pepper, and then went through my glazing process with the dipping. It depends on how you want to put it on the plate. That needs to be thought of before you actually start running it through the gelatin, right? Because you don't want to set this up like this and then have to clean a whole bunch of crap and re-glaze it, because now it's going to lay down, right? So making sure everything's the right temperature, running it through, working out of the box in the right sort of order. You know, things need to look natural, and it can't look manufactured. So if your glaze is too heavy, if it's too thick, if it's not thick enough, it's going to look, not thick enough, it's not going to look good at all. But if it's too thick, it's going to look manufactured, and that's not good either. This particular gelatin is 16 to 1, so it's a pound to a gallon. The other one is 8 to 1 right there. 8 to a gallon. Yeah. And we've done some pastry work where the pastry chef wanted a 12 to 1 because they were using particular fruits and leaves, and they needed something a little heavier. Because as it gets warm, like a strawberry, it will bleed, right? So in order to keep that from happening, you use just a heavier gelatin so we keep them. Like I said, I usually try and do 2 fruit. How's it going? Yeah. Listen, that's going to depend on the gelatin you're using. There's another one I like too. It's a Great Lakes. Yeah, and I usually run that about 90 degrees also. That one works really well. Not as tough. I didn't bring it with me. I wish I did, but you guys have seen it, right? Because you use it. Yellow. Very yellow, right? Not super clear. So you actually have to make the adjustment in your food, not in the gelatin. Right? The gelatin is going to be that yellow color. You're going to have to brighten up your food to make it more colorful. So you can't do like a lot of yellow vegetables or a lot of dull things, because you're going to make them more dull. Like the bright red on this Swiss chard, I chose that over the yellow Swiss chard because I think it looked cooler with the blood or the red from that. It actually brings out some of the monkey near real look. Gelatin will actually bring some of that out too. So when you're actually searing your meats, don't make them too rare. Almost everything. The vegetables I actually did more natural. I just carved out the little leaves in the top of the tournée, and then I dropped the zucchini, or the squash, in a boiling water for like 3 seconds, cooked it out, tossed it around in a hot pan to get some brown on it. That's it. Mushroom, I just put a little score in, and then seared it. 2. But again, like I said earlier, it depends. Sometimes you'll notice after your second dip, some of them look like hell. See, with this coat, I mean, it comes out even shinier. I mean, there's a little bit on it. And I didn't clean them. I didn't do anything from this point. I'm going to clean them later. Some of these thinner things, you don't want to leave them there too long at all. But look at this coat now on this end. It's twice as thick. That towel, I damped it. I put it in that pot of water. Yes. Oh, yeah. Sometimes they don't cooperate. right here is just taking all that gelatin that's on the bottom of there and cleaning it off. So I'll have a lot less work to do with my edges later when I want to go to the plate. The guys that are really, really good at this, they can bust through a platter in less than an hour. A whole platter. Boom, 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 boom. 2 dips. It's amazing to me. It's really, really incredible to watch next year. How much water where? I'm sorry? Just enough to touch the bottom of the towel there. The towel damp. Yep. Keep all my tools in hot water so I don't transfer, any solid gelatin over to a wet application.
Oh, you know what I'm doing when I get home? I got like 4 boxes of board.
Where'd you get the certificate? Hey,
From ROTC.
is it yours?
Doing stuff. I got 5 trophies, 3 medals, and a box full of certificates.
Today?
At home.
Wait, what is this?
Oh, that's right now.
Oh.
They both work. I like the plastic plexiglass because I can actually keep it into Sterilite, keep the air off of it. Yeah, I lied to you a second ago. These Sterilite containers I got at Walmart, they're $5. Just to keep the air off. And frankly, if you have something like those toothpick pieces that I did earlier, and you keep your product in here on a speed rack or on a rack that's obviously has holes in it, you can always put a sheet pan on the shelf above it to try and keep some of the wind from the fan from rippling the product. That's all. But that's really all this is doing. And then I can stack these in the fridge and it doesn't damage my product. Stuff like the greens. You'll go through a boatload of these plastic containers too. Chick towels are good for this. These work, but you could end up with the little strands and fuzzies in your product, right? There's no other term I could use than fuzzies for that.
I don't know his name. Jaeger?
Yeah. These are just celery leaf, and I did them in just ice water. Let them curl up a little bit. It could be any leaf, it just happened to be what I had. But I'm basically just going to dip them in my 8-to-1, just like that. Yep, and then throw it on the top.
Word? What?
I use them all about 90. They're all around 90. So this one's a little hotter than that just because it was not controlled. But for this process, it isn't going to make a difference. The only thing you want to be careful of when you're doing with these is, and you'll see it on platters from in this room to ACF competition anywhere to Luxembourg, you'll see wilted greens on platters all over the place. And it's typically because they're either using the same gelatin for everything, but it's too high a strength and it's just too heavy, or it's too hot, and it wilts the greens.
I'm gonna go to the spot.
Everything I do, it's more the temperature for the gelatin, not the product, so I usually keep it between 88 and 90 for this particular gelatin. 16. And listen, that's my preference. And that that comes from a lot of practice with these particular things. I started with a 14-to-1 ratio because I was told that worked really well. And then I noticed that I was dipping 3 times. And that's one more time than I need to, just for time's sake. So I know people that'll put sugar in their gelatin. That's an old school technique. But that's supposed to help with evening out of the glazing. I've never done it. I was never taught that way, and I've never tried it. But I went from 14-to-1 to 16-to-1. I've learned that 16-to-1 gelatin is incredibly strong. Even the 8-to-1 is, but it wasn't going to hold that wrap on there. So this piece was made in individual pieces. Obviously, I didn't build it like this. That piece was just transglutamine with leek and mushroom ash with just scraps of the tenderloin after I cleaned up the center cut for the outside. I glued that off sous vide until it was medium rare. Took it out, seared individual slices of mushroom, seasoned them independently, laid them out on a sheet, weighed them down with a 5-gallon bucket overnight under a piece of plexiglass to make it one flat sheet. So that's probably 20 different mushrooms all flattened out inside. And then I gelatined that with 32 strings. So I did 32 ounces to a gallon. That mushroom wouldn't come off. I mean, you could rip it apart. I mean, I could throw this against the wall and it would fall apart. So I wrapped that around after I brushed the sheet, wrapped that, tightened it up, cranked it down, vacuum sealed it, put it in the fridge. I built this piece, which is just a piece, the center cut of the tenderloin that was unwrapped, pounded flat, wrapped back around this, seared it all the way around, seasoned it. I mean, it's 100% edible. You wouldn't want to because it's going to taste like venison bubblegum, which ain't bad. And then after I seared that and cooled it, you don't want any fat on there, so I brushed the fat off and just kind of dried it out. And then I laid out my 32-string gelatin on some blanched Swiss chard leaves. I actually lined up the leaves because I'm a jerk with that one. You could just simply wrap it and it would look just as good. And then I wrapped it, sealed it, pressed it, and brought it out here. I mean the gelatin glue. Yeah. So I did 32 strength for the wrap, just the leaves and the mushroom. Otherwise, you run the risk of when this gets hot in there, if it melts the gelatin that's holding that wrap together, it could fall apart. So the 32 strength takes a lot more temperature to melt. So putting it in this is not going to make it fall off. Yeah, I mean, I could physically tear it off, but it wants to stay together. So I did good. But you can see underneath, I mean, that piece was actually cooked. This isn't manufactured fake food. You have to, it still has to be the best damn piece of venison tenderloin you ever ate, right? Even though no one's going to eat it. But if you actually take the time and attention to make it that way, it's going to look good on your platter. You can see the difference between people that manufactured it and people that didn't. That actually took the time to put it together. Now, did I make a lot of shit to stick together? Yeah. But, this is a piece that you could put without the gelatin on an entree in a restaurant tomorrow. It would be good. So, I didn't even do sauces, but I made so there is some stuff we still make in competition. One of them is some of your sauce work. I have some recipes for like cream sauces that involve a lot of dehydrated milk. This is actually a jus that I made from the venison bones. I actually made a legit jus. And then I added 16-string gelatin to it. But I cooked my jus down with dark corn syrup to get that really rich color until it was that bang. And it's kind of coated the back of the spoon really nice. And then I added a couple tablespoons of gelatin. And this I could have bounced off the wall. So if I set it to that 90-degree water right there, I can pour this in a container, pour it on my cold plate, and it'll start to firm up right away. So it'll actually look like you poured a sauce on the plate. So, and if we cut it open, we can pour it out. Grab a spoon, I'll give you a plate if you want to pour it. For those of you guys that are doing your plates, wrap them. And then I cut the center out. That way you don't ever have to worry about damaging the outside of your plate, right? So you're just working in here. After everything's set, it's all ready to go, you can just peel the plastic off. But I always I eliminate any place I'm not going to put food, and I cover it. So I just put a piece of plastic in an X-Acto knife and just cut that out. Behind. No problem. This, for this venison piece, I would do like an antler, right? So I cut this out to fit in here exactly where I want it. I would put a little salt butter, some glucose, brush it in there, and I'd put a dust in there. So the dust I would use for this, because I used leek and mushroom ash already, is I would take some dehydrated mushrooms, I'd grind them up into a powder with some salt and black pepper. So it's seasoned, it smells good. And I would dust it on there, lift this off, and I'd have that dust where it's supposed to be. Once the butter or the glucose or whatever firms up in the refrigerator, so you can throw the plate around, it ain't going anywhere. And then you would plate, obviously, the design for this would be that piece in the center and then the vegetables coming off either side, a little sauce. And typically when you sauce, you're not right down in the plate. With this, you'd want to be. You want to be a little more direct. So you're going to find that fine line of height where you pour so it doesn't splash, but it doesn't look manufactured perfect circle either. Right? Some of the crap you guys see on Instagram, they half that food's not even cooked. It looks terrible. It looks awesome. It's really artistic, but no one can eat the damn thing. Right? Your food, even though no one's going to eat it, has to look edible, cooked, seasoned, not manufactured. It needs to look like you cooked this plate, put that piece of venison on there, sauteed your vegetables and gently placed them, and then drop your sauce on them. And if it doesn't look like that, then you're not going to score really well. I don't know, a little tip. I would probably use one of these. Wraps, when I do the wraps, and man, I know guys that go all the way up into the 70s, but then, yeah, I mean, at that point, it's really tough to work. For me, I've always known it to work. I mean, it looks like all shoot to me, right? Tastes good too, although you're going to taste a little corn syrup in there. But it's at a point where you can actually, pour it. It looks like this would be the consistency of a glace that you're going to work with in any restaurant. Plate's nice and cold. Out. And it's just warm enough to run a little bit before it starts to firm up. You leave that in your refrigerator for a couple of seconds, and it'll turn right back into a gel.
Yeah, bitch, what you think I felt? I was hurting too. That.
When I go to the table after that, I always bring a thermos. I have some 8-to-1 in there. Nice and clean. Don't just dump your gelatin, right? A little bit of my lighter, could be 8, could be 12, depends on what I'm brushing. Something like that, the jus might use an 8 just because if it's too heavy, I'll start to push it around a little bit and a little thick. But I go to the table with a brush, and I brush all my sauces, and I'll finalize any little glazing, anything that looks just a little dry or uneven, I'll go around and brush each little piece while it's on the table. As long as you're in your time, you can do that. These are super
I need a
cheap.
list of all your names.
Worth every penny.
So I need rank,
Just don't,
last name, first name,
after
all
your
them are ranked.
competition, go home, throw the dishwasher,
Because I'm working on
off
something
that.
with the captain.
It's like hell.
That's right.
No.
Oh, and
That's pretty
for
much it.
certificates, I put PFC blue, but he said he's a private.
Yeah, okay. I just need first, last name, and then just text me the whole list,
Yeah, that's just
and then
one.
I'll forward it to the captain.
Everybody that's saying this working part, they was
Like all 11 of y'all.
And so it's still got a little bit of ripple in it. Once you put the second coat on, you clean that right up. Then you can just go around and
So all of y'all was asking about the glazing process. So the fish has a glaze on it. All y'all been asking about it. This is what he's teaching how to do.
is he using the gelatin?
Yeah. That's what he's teaching.
there's
I
very
got
little
tired of
clean
explaining it.
just because of that, using that piece. So you could just work your way around a hot pot here.
But you can
Use a
also buy
spoon.
liquid or you can buy powdered gelatin. There's 3 different types.
I know you can buy the sheet ones, but I know they had powder.
They have powdered and they also
Just
have
clean up
liquid.
that edge is now gone. But that's it. I don't have to do anything to the top. It's so firm that I can touch it with my fingers as long as I don't have anything on my fingers. It's not an issue.
Yeah.
I won't transfer any oils from my fingers to that. Oils, fats, the gelatin hates it. It doesn't stick, so I don't want to touch anything with my bare hands. So, That's just one dip. I do two. It's gonna be beautiful. That's it. Pretty simple. Oh, I just did it on the spot. Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. You can use whatever you're comfortable with. A lot of the tools are personal preference. You know? I have some really tiny spoons too, so you could pick this piece up.
Keep the green, the green for 4. Another kid from the hospital on 5.
I don't clean it till I do the second. You only do one. But, you know, with that little tiny lip that's on there, once I put it in here, it'll melt that off. I'll just end up with my new lip when I put it on here. Everything else will be doubled up, and then I would clean it on the second one. But that was 2 seconds. That's all done. I think it's pretty strong. Oh no, if you're struggling, you're doing it wrong. You gotta. It should be fun. Look at that. I mean, that's a big piece, right? I like the spoon because it's rounded as opposed to a flat piece because you may hit the side of this and melt some of the gelatin off the side. So with the spoon, I get kind of a more direct. That's all gone. I don't know. If you got any questions, please shout them out. I'm sorry? Oh, no, it's made from a natural product. That's all. The gelatin's made from animals. So you can get gelatins made from all different things. This one was, you know, is obviously a beef. Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Everybody. Eyes up there. So, Chef Eric Peter presents you with for your participation in the 44th Annual Joint Culinary Training Exercise, Teamwork 2019, for your innovative demonstrations that were very informative and entertaining to the public. Over 200 participants, 20 teams represented all brands of the United States Armed Forces. This reflects great credit upon you. The Joint Culinary Center for Excellence, the U.S. Army Quartermaster School, the United States Army Culinary Art Program, and our nation's culinary victory. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll end up with gelatin all over it. I'll put it over here. Hey, no problem. No problem. No problem at all. You guys got any questions, you can find me. So if you want, like I said, I'll be more than happy to help out with the team. If you guys, I'll come out and we'll set it up and we'll run through some gelatin work if you want. No problem. I'll tell my dad I'm only allowed to work with the Marines. I'm only kidding. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. You get 2 ways. Let me turn this off. You're going to take a little bit.
Always hard to have talking shit. What they say now? Always hard to have. They talking shit. Let's go back over there. How we walk past the neighbors? I'm just gonna get the hand-me-downs. We don't have to walk over. Why would I put oh that's better bro? When did I be? Must be on top of you. You are. That shit hurts so bad.
Stewart, bronze medal.
I'm saying no.
So it's like, go kill. I got killed myself. Kill the kid. That's it. We already got like 4 other kids. We got so many kids. Oh, my father will hold. Gotta be awesome.
Short people, and then y'all always touch people to prove y'all point.
Okay,
So
I
y'all
don't
be like,
do
y'all be like,
I don't do that. I don't do that. Oh, don't think
no. The opportunity. This could be your only shot. What if they're not here tomorrow? That's what I said. Just go do it. What are you? What are you?
you know what I'm saying?
Why are you scared?
Damn, you got
Just be chill, bro.
no.
Be how you was the first time around. First, is there any paper here? I ain't got to tell you how to do it now. It does hurt. But we're gonna stop commissions if you think.
Shit, I was looking at my black slides this morning. I was like, shit, I should have some black Johnsons and slides. I mean, I got my drawers on. These are like slippers, but I was fixing to wear my pants today, but I was like, I'll be alone at night.
Butters?
Black. You can only wear black. I can wear anything as long as it's black. So them slides don't fit me as well.
I got one toenail. It's not like this. What? One of my toenails about this long. The other one, I don't know why. I don't. I'm keeping that to see how long it's gonna get.
That's so hurt in your
You know it